Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to our 240th weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. Now, the way this call works is this is an AMA, like you see on Reddit, meaning ask me anything. You can ask me business questions, career questions, investing questions, and my humble goal is to help you take your career to the next level. So without further ado, let's begin. Thank you. Please keep typing your questions there. I want to talk about this book called Give and Take, and I recommend that all of you read it as well. And basically, what this book talks about is how the richest 1% of people in the world are givers. They give with their hearts. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. And you have to want to help people in business. If you give, you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. Help others, and you'll be helping yourself. And I also want you to please mentor other people, because when one teaches, two learn, and you remind yourself of what the DNA subfabric blueprint is of success. So check this book out. It's a good read. Thank you. All right, let me get to your questions here. All right, so I just changed my studio around. If there's any comments on the lighting or the sound, let me know if it's not optimal. Thank you. All right, so let me kick it off with Ray. Hey, Ray. Ray wrote, hi, Chris. Here are my questions today. How do you invest in Bloomberg as it is private and it is owned by a physical person? Yeah. So Michael Bloomberg is a majority shareholder owner of Bloomberg. It is a private company. You cannot invest. Now, he's not as active as he once was in the company, because once he entered politics to become mayor for a while of New York City, he had to step aside for conflict of interest reasons. But I believe that Bloomberg is going to do incredibly well over the next couple of decades because of Bloomberg GPT, which is probably the best artificial intelligence application of AI out there. So check it out, Bloomberg GPT. Okay, next up, have you thought about buying land in a region of the world that will benefit from global warming? For example, Siberia. Siberia will be green when Europe turns into a desert. Yeah, since I live in the United States, I'm not allowed to invest there. But I have thought about that before. And global warming, it's terrifying. We had a record July in many parts of the world. My students in Arizona had temperatures over 100 degrees for like a month in a row. Now, the San Francisco Bay Area, which is a lot colder than Los Angeles, will probably see their temperature continue to rise, which might help real estate, but that's not really a reason to invest. Yeah. Now, San Francisco, if you haven't visited, it's chilly most of the year except for in the fall. And Mark Twain once said, the coldest winter he ever spent was a summer in San Francisco. I couldn't wear this short sleeve shirt in the city during the summer. Okay, next up, have you heard of any program similar to your MBA program, but for computer science? I've not. You can always do a Master's of Computer Science or a PhD if you want to. And I recommend reaching out to Luca Ennison, who's a guy who's an expert in AI. He's got several 100,000 Udemy students. I partnered with him recently on a course on AI. And Luca has a master's and a PhD in computer science focused on AI. Now, if you want to learn tech skills quickly, I don't recommend going to university. I recommend taking courses online on Udemy, for example, from teachers like Angela Yu, who's incredible. Nobody's better than her, or Rob Percival. All right, next up, I have got Andre. How are you? From Florida. Andre wrote, good morning. Good morning to you too. Can you clarify the concept of holding equity in a startup company? I've attracted an investor interested in putting funds and his experience into my startup. Yeah, getting equity is definitely smarter than getting a loan, because if you get a loan and you miss a couple of payments, the bank can take everything. But if you're going to get an equity holder to invest in your company, make sure, of course, they're a minority shareholder, so that you have exclusive rights in terms of where to steer the business longer term. And be really careful with investors, because a bad investor is worse than a bad marriage. And I say that because In a bad marriage, people get divorced. Half the people in this country do now. It's unfortunate. But when it comes to a bad investor, they're a thorn in your side forever. You can't get rid of them. It's very, very hard. Yeah. And if you want to learn how to raise money for your startup, you can go to my website, harounmba.com, scroll down to the bottom, and download this networking book for free. I've raised and managed over $1 billion in my career, and I share all my best, greatest hits with you. Last thing I'll say on this topic is, initially, I want you to approach high net worth investors because the sales cycle is quite short. Okay. All right, next up, I have got Andre wrote, the techniques from the MBA, particularly networking, are effective. Grateful for your guidance. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate that. All right, next up, we got Mike Flynn. Hey, man, good to see you. You wrote, what are your thoughts on Big Short, which is a great movie, Big Short investor Michael Burry from the Scion Fund, betting against the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about this because large funds, if you manage over $100 million, by law, you have to disclose your positions. And so Michael Burry just disclosed that he's got about a $740 million short on the NASDAQ, or I should say puts. And then with the S&P 500, he's short over, or has puts in over $900 million. Generally speaking, and I can't speak for Michael Burry, but I will say that most people that made a killing in 2008 being short have massively underperformed the market since then. For example, John Paulson from Paulson Associates, he was up a lot in 2008. If you're a very negative person when it comes to investing, it's hard to turn that around and be long. If you're skeptical, you'll always be skeptical. It's very, very difficult to turn a big ship around. And the NASDAQ is up about 30% this year, and the S&P 500 is up about 15%. So when the market's up this much, the media loves to talk about the bears coming out and shorting stocks. And once you see Nouriel Roubini being interviewed a lot on CNBC, you'll know that the whole market is bearish. And Nouriel Roubini is a professor at NYU. Great professor, actually. Okay. Next up, I read that another country just ditched the dollar. India and the UAE traded oil without using the dollar for the first time on Monday. Yeah, the dollar, I humbly believe, is still going to be the reserve currency in the world for the next couple of decades, although it is losing share. I think if there's any country that's going to have a reserve currency aside from the United States, it's going to be the Indian rupee longer term. India is the largest country in the world population-wise, past China recently. It's also the world's biggest democracy, and I'm a big fan of India. That being said, the very last company, so to speak, to go belly up would be the U.S. government. And we'll know that the financial markets are no longer interested in the U.S. dollar if we start to see investors use the risk-free rate, not using the U.S. dollar, using another currency. Okay, it's all relative. Okay. Next up, Renveer, who's one of my silver MBA students from Mauritius. Good to see you. And Renveer actually networked a lot using the skills that I teach in this book and my MBA program to meet with a CEO at a shareholder meeting who I think became a big customer of his. The best way to meet CEOs or any C-level executive is to go to a shareholder meeting, and anybody can go to them. Okay. So Renveer wrote, hi, Chris. The shareholder meeting seasons are coming soon. I was wondering if instead of exchanging business cards, I give the CEO a book on sales since I don't have mine yet. Yeah. I wouldn't do that only because you might be implying that they need help. And sometimes there are egos involved, so to speak. What I would do is I would just exchange business cards with them. And then after that meeting from the shareholders meeting, follow up with them. And say it was a pleasure meeting you. I enjoyed our conversation, and connect with them directly on LinkedIn. Once you publish your book, then by all means, give your book to them as well. And for those of you that want to publish a book, you can always go to my website to download my free template. Go to harounmba.com/all lowercase write book. And that's how I wrote this book as well, using that template. So the template for you is 6 inches by 9 inches, I promise you, if you write a book, it will only do good things for your career. When you go to shareholder meetings or one-on-one meetings, informational meetings or interviews, give them your book. And if you think that's too much work, then please ask yourself, how badly do you want that job? Okay. All right. Next up, Renbeer wrote, I don't live in the United States, but I wish I had a sales job, kind of like Jordan Belfort had. Don't use him as your role model, please. Do you think those cold calling jobs still exist? If yes, can I join them even if I'm not in the United States? Yeah, anybody can cold call. I mean, most calls I get are actually from overseas now, and I never answer my phone because I don't know who it is. It's usually a scammer from overseas, so to speak. But yeah, you can certainly work in direct sales or indirect sales for any company, regardless of where you live. Yeah. But the reality is that the way that big companies have it set up is they have quota-carrying sales reps that are usually responsible for a geography, or they're responsible for a vertical like financial services or healthcare, etc. And usually the quota-carrying salespeople, if they get big deals, they usually meet one-on-one with their clients as well. Okay. Pardon me. Okay, next up, Raheel. Raheel, first time I've seen you on the call. I hope you join us again. Thank you. And everybody, please keep typing your questions. Thank you. Okay, so Raheel wrote, I don't live in the United States. Oh, pardon me. You wrote, I'm a retail trader and a student. Can I get a little bit of a preference in a hedge fund as a trader or an analyst? Also, what is the change in mindset when we shift from retail to institutional trading? Yeah, the most successful hedge funds are long-term focused. I know it's a weird thing to say because you think they're mostly traders. They're not. And you can't be short-term focused and be a day trader because it doesn't work. Because what will happen is you'll get fooled by randomness. You have to be very, very long-term focused. You got to focus on fundamentals first, valuation second, and a distant third, technical analysis to understand when to get in or out of positions. And historically, the long-term focused hedge funds have an outlook of 3 to 5 years for their positions unless something changes. And the biggest pioneer in the sector was Julian Robertson. God bless him, he passed away recently. He started Tiger back in the 1980s. And the reason I mention this is because if you want to work at a hedge fund, I recommend working at what's called a Tiger Cup. And what that means is a lot of portfolio managers and analysts from Tiger quit to start their own companies, hence Tiger Cups. The longer the view, the wiser the intention, as Mr. Buffett says. Yeah. And if you want to get a job at a hedge fund, I really recommend networking like crazy, using the concepts I talk about in this book, which is available on my website, harounmba.com. And what I recommend doing is setting up a ton of informational meetings with hedge funds. And the reality is, from a generic perspective, if I take a step back here, every time you see a job opening online, you literally have a 1 in 250 chance of getting that job. So who gets the job? It's usually somebody that knows someone at the company. So if these are the new unwritten rules of employment, then you got to network like crazy and meet people at the companies you want to work at that have something in common with you. For example, I could do an advanced search on a hedge fund or any company for that matter in LinkedIn, pardon me, and find people that also went to the Toronto French School like I did, and also used to live in Mississauga, Canada, like I did, and also live in the Bay Area that work at that company. Set up 20 or 30 informational meetings, either in person or over Zoom. And I promise you, at some point, you will get that job. Your network is your net worth, and relationships are always more important than product knowledge. So let's say you network and you get that meeting. What do you talk about in that meeting? Well, before the meeting starts, I want you to go to the Twitter profile of whoever you're meeting with and see if they have anything in common with you. For example, if they're a baseball fan and they follow the Toronto Blue Jays, this is my favorite team. I'm a really small person, by the way. If you meet me in real life, I'm tiny. Yeah. But if they're a baseball fan, you can talk about baseball. You know, if they're a cricket fan, you can talk about cricket if they follow cricketers, for example. If they follow movies, you can talk about movies. Just remember that sports is great boardroom talk. I had to use an excuse to bring out this prop. I love it. So before your meeting, before you talk business, you always want to bond with them first because you'll never get that second chance to make that first impression. Moving on to the next question here. The Berlin, who's how are you, man, Alejandro? And it was a pleasure meeting you and your wife and your beautiful family this past weekend at the Gold and Platinum MBA graduation here in San Francisco. And I really enjoyed our one-on-one. Thank you for the pen as well. And so you wrote, good morning. It was a pleasure meeting your family, Christina and her family, and you as well in person. Thank you. I know you had a busy week and month. I hope you got some good rest. Thank you. Thank you. I'm still recovering, and the way that I'm getting rest is I'm redoing my studio, which is fun for me. And the way you know that you have a passion, not a job, is if you're on vacation or you're taking time off and you still want to work. Or if I tell you, I'm going to give you 30 days off and you can't travel and you can't go to work, what are you going to do with your time? Whatever that is your purpose in life. Give me 1 second, sorry. All right. And then next up, Alex wrote, Chris, I emailed you from your student support email with respect to my daughter getting an internship. Just want to make sure that it's a good email for her to contact you at. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I am a day or two behind in the support emails. I apologize, just given graduation. But what I'm doing next is I'm working on the complete Python course, which is going to be another elective for my MBA program with the brilliant Luca Annison. And Luca and I partnered on the complete artificial intelligence course, which is part of the MBA curriculum as well. And all electives I add, and I'm going to be adding a lot of tech electives soon, but all electives that I add to the MBA program, all my students that have signed up or will sign up for my MBA degree program at harounmba.com will get them for free forever. Okay. And then Alex wrote here also, we squeezed San Francisco for what it was on the way home, and we stopped by Steve Jobs' garage and passed by Apple's headquarters and stopped at Santa Cruz. Very nice. Awesome. Awesome. I actually don't even know where Steve Jobs' house is. I'm sure it's somewhere here in Cupertino, 20 minutes south of where I live here. Nice. Okay. Next up, Popcorn on the Horizon wrote, hey, Chris, I just completed one of your courses called An Entire MBA in One Course. I found it fascinating and insightful. Thank you so much for that. I look forward to trying out more of your courses. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right. Next up, Rubina, who's from Pakistan originally, and she just graduated from my Gold MBA program. She now lives in the United Kingdom, and her passion is building schools for girls. Good to see you. Rubina wrote, hi, Chris. I pray that you and your family are well. Good to see you back. Thank you. And then you wrote, thank you for my certificate of completion for my MBA. Just a quick question. Do we get the hard copy posted to us? Yeah. So what you can do is you can always print out the PDF that I sent you. It's 8.5 by 11. And then what you can do is just buy a frame for $20 on Amazon. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. All right. Next up, Amon. Hey, Amon. How are you? Wrote here, I'm from an engineering background, but I want to make a career in finance, and I'm from India. I would pursue a master's in finance from the United States next year. I've done internships from reputable companies here. What should I do to get a good job in research field in equity or investment banking or asset management after I graduate? Yeah. So we always say in Silicon Valley that it's easier to teach finance to an engineer than it is to teach engineering to a finance person. So you've got a great background. Something just shifted in my closet here. Give me 1 second, guys. I put up a bunch of boxes. I want to make sure that it's not leaning on the power supply. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back now. Yeah. But what I would do if you want to get a job in asset management or finance in general is what I mentioned earlier, which is network aggressively. Set up 20 or 30 meetings with people that work at companies that you want to work at. And I promise you, if you do this, your chances of getting a job go up materially. And if you want more details on that, please let me know. And thank you everybody for your patience with me today. Okay. Okay, next up, Rubina wrote, have you heard of the new artificial intelligence technology that lets you reach people all around the world in 50 languages? What happened is that you present in English and it's translated into other languages. I've not seen that, but I know that using ChatGPT and other AI-based engines, you can always ask it to translate if you want to. And what I do sometimes is I use this actually when I'm in conversations with people and I want to translate. So for example, if I want to ask somebody, where's the closest Apple store in Spanish? I just do this. How do I say in Spanish, where's the closest Apple store?
In Spanish, where is the closest Apple store is? ¿Dónde está la tienda Apple más cercana?
Okay. You need internet access for that to work, though, of course. All right. Next up, we have Nintendo. How are you? Good to see you. You wrote, how do you think we should educate young people so that they can have a great financial future? Yeah, great question. Yeah. So the problem with traditional business schools is they teach you how to manage other people's money, but they don't teach you how to manage your own money. And when I graduated from my MBA in finance from Columbia University 8 million years ago, I bought my first apartment and I called my buddies and I was like, dude, how does a mortgage work? And they're like, I don't know. They didn't teach us that in school. So the most important thing I would say is start saving early and understand that the uber wealthy people, they are worth a fortune because they minimize the taxes they owe. So the first thing I would do is make sure you max out your retirement savings program every single year. And the S&P 500 is up about 15% roughly, historically speaking, on an annualized basis. So if you put $22,500, which is your 401k max, if you put that amount of money into the S&P every year, then in 20 years, you would have over $1 million. And you don't pay tax on that until you take it out. If your spouse did it as well, you'd have over $2 million. And the next thing you want to do is you also want to invest in your children's education. Now, times are tough. It's hard to do this every year, but there are educational savings accounts or ESAs in many countries. And you can invest the money tax-free. So you can invest about $15,000 per kid per year. So if you did that for 18 years before they go to university, that's 700 grand, okay, in the S&P 500 at 15% annualized average return. So if you do it for 3 kids, that's 2.1 million, plus the 2 million I talked about from your 401k savings from your spouse and you, and you've got close to $5 million. What you also want to do, of course, is you want to make sure that you buy a place as soon as you can. I know it's hard. It took me until my 30s until I could buy an apartment in New York City. But if you think about it, if you're spending $1,000 per month on rent, if you instead put that into your mortgage, then the amount of money that you would save in 50 years is over $30 million. That's right. You can run the numbers in Excel. Okay. All right. Let's see. Next up, Kai wrote here, hey, Chris, I'm an incoming third-year business undergraduate student at McGill. That's my alma mater. My alma does matter. Good to see you. You wrote, I've applied for summer internships, but I've not received any offers. Would attending more networking events solve this issue? It's so funny you mentioned that because I remember when I was in my 3rd year of undergrad, I applied to 50 of the top companies in the world. And I got 30 rejection letters, right? The other 20 never responded. And I created a wall of shame just to motivate me. I actually pasted them all on my wall. And I didn't realize until, after I'd worked for a decade or so, that you can't get a job just by applying. And you're probably doing your undergrad right now with buddies of yours that have gotten internships in investment banking because their parents are wealthy and they know people at those companies. You know what I mean? What you have to do instead is you need to create an amazing LinkedIn profile, which I teach in my MBA degree program. And then you have to set up just a ton of networking meetings. And people want to help you. I promise you. All you have to do is ask. And for more tips on how to network to get these informational meetings, go to my website. You can check out this free book here. Okay. All right. Next up, Nintendo wrote, why do you think, or what do you think are the best books, courses, and resources to learn about properly putting a valuation on a company and publicly traded companies as well? There's really no book I can recommend. If you want to read something theoretical, what I would do is get books by Damodaran. So Damodaran is a professor in finance at NYU. And the only reason I have his books is because I used to work at a big hedge fund called Citadel, and I had a one-on-one meeting for half an hour with Ken Griffin, the billionaire founder. And whenever I have meetings with people that are more successful than me in their offices, which is every meeting I have in offices, what I do is I look at their bookshelf to see what books they have. And Ken Griffin had a couple of books by Damodaran on finance. You can do that if you want. What I recommend, though, is you can take online courses from me or other people in terms of how to value companies. The one I recommend you take of mine is called the Complete Financial Analyst Training and Investing Course. And the good thing about taking courses from places like Udemy is that you learn from people that have done it. Okay, it's not theoretical. I need you, give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. I don't want this box to fall. Again, I just rearranged my studio and I don't want to start a fire. So stay with me, please. So sorry about this. All right. We're okay. It's just a bunch of boxes that are settling. Okay. And I think I just disconnected a light by accident. That's fine. Okay. All right. Next up, Alejandro wrote, Chris, Warren Buffett skimmed off some of his holdings and he was betting on home builders. We are shy over 1 million homes and it'll take 10 years to have the inventory we need, question mark. Yeah, I've not done much research on that, but let me know what stocks Warren Buffett bought. Yeah, thank you. All right. Ake wrote, it's been a long time since I've been on the call. Great to see you. Great to see you. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for your patience with me today. Just these boxes are settling. I didn't want a fire to start. All right. Next up, Renveer from Mauritius wrote, hey, Chris, if the markets are random, how can I bet on it staying random apart from being long-term focused? The markets will always be random. And there's a great book by Taleb called Fooled by Randomness. And the crux of that book is, he's a brilliant investor. The crux of that book is you cannot be a day trader because each month has 20 weekdays, meaning 20 days the market's open. And stocks go up and down in the short term, based on stuff you can't control. It might be saber rattling between DC and Beijing. You know, it might be the fact that a stock similar to the one you invested in had great earnings or poor earnings. You can't do it. You got to be very long-term focused. And if you disagree with me, and I say this with love in my heart as a challenge, please give me a list of successful day traders because I don't know any of them. They don't exist. Okay. All right. All right. Next up, Rahil wrote, I'm a retail trader. Please be long-term focused. And a student. Can I get a little bit of, give me 1 second, guys. Can I get a little bit of preference in a hedge fund as a trader or an analyst? Also, the change in mindset. Yeah, okay, it looks like you posted that question twice. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. Next up, Ajay or AJ. And if I mispronounce anyone's name, please let me know. Ajay wrote, hi, Chris. Hope you're doing well. I loved your recent Excel course ad. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We had a lot of fun doing that. The brilliant Adad Warda scripted that whole thing. He's great. That was the box settling. Okay. All right. Next up, Nintendo wrote, as for hedge funds, do you think someone who has no MBA and no normal education can get a job at a hedge fund? Absolutely. Absolutely. All you have to do is network aggressively. Now, I've worked at a lot of hedge funds where people who started in the back office doing settlements or in the mailroom eventually moved on to work as assistant traders and then traders as well. You can do it. You just have to network aggressively. And even decades ago, Sidney Weinberg, who was the CEO of Goldman Sachs for decades, he started in the mailroom with no education, but he networked like crazy. And if you want to get a job at a hedge fund, aside from networking, what I would do is start emailing your one-page write-ups to hedge fund portfolio managers. Do it on a monthly basis. And if you're in my MBA program, you can use the templates in the finance and accounting part of the curriculum. I provide you with many of them, and I teach you how to write these one-page templates. Or what you can do is when you go to these informational meetings with hedge funds or asset managers, you can give them your resume, and on the other side of the resume is a one-page write-up. Okay. All right. Okay. Next up, Ajay wrote, are you still long Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ripple, and Ethereum? And then you wrote, I've been listening and following you since 2019. Love from India. Thank you. Yes, I still own those 4, and those are the only 4 I've ever publicly disclosed. Yeah. And if anybody invests in cryptos, please make sure that you never put more than 0.5% of your liquid net worth in any one crypto. And also, please make sure that no more than 5% of your portfolio is in cryptocurrencies, because most of these are a scam. Yeah. And always do your own research, of course. All right. Okay. Chef Hawk wrote, good morning, world. How are you? Ake wrote, I need help with marketing my clothing brand. Any tips? Yeah. So what I recommend doing is writing a thorough business plan. And it's a cliche, but failing to plan is planning to fail. And if you're in my MBA degree program, in the 3rd semester in the entrepreneurship track, I provide you with 50 business plan templates. And I also teach you how to write a business plan from scratch. You need to finish a business plan before you take your company to the next level, or before you start a company. Yeah. Okay. All right, Manas, how are you, man? Manas wrote, good morning, my dear mentor, Chris, please. Hope all is well, likewise. How are you doing? I'm always great, thank you. You wrote, what about San Francisco? I see the number of immigrants and refugees are increasing there, according to Kevin O'Leary. Yeah, is this true, and why is that? Yeah, so I would say a lot of people are moving. So here's the issue with San Francisco, and I love this city. It's a beautiful city. It's just misguided right now, and I think we need a new mayor. But what happened was the mayor on Market Street, big street in San Francisco, created a center where anybody can do drugs. Bring your own drugs, do whatever you want, anything. And they did this to try to contain the drug epidemic in San Francisco. But what happened was a lot of people from other cities that do drugs moved to the Bay Area, to San Francisco, because of this. They've since scrapped that plan, thank goodness. Also, in San Francisco, if you steal something that's less than $700, you don't really get a criminal record. You get a little slap on the wrist, that's it. So what happens is a lot of people break into cars, but they don't steal your laptop. So it's unfortunate. And I had a lot of a ton of students from out of town that were at graduation this past weekend here in the Bay Area where I am. And I told them, just be careful if you're in the city. You know, just take an Uber through the city or go with somebody that knows the city well. It's unfortunate. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Ake wrote, you are the only teacher I've had who truly understands every student. You're like a godfather to many of us. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. And then Manas wrote, the biggest concern about Ripple is they keep 20% of supply for the team. It's good, but too centralized. What are your thoughts on this? Yeah, that is a risk. Supply is always a risk when it comes to cryptocurrencies. That's why I have a much bigger position in Bitcoin, where the supply is going to be limited to 21 million Bitcoins by the year 2140. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Next up, Chef Hack wrote, I bought 3 of your courses on Udemy. It definitely made me understand business and knowing my numbers. Awesome. And thank you so much for your support. Appreciate that. Okay. And then Alex wrote, Chris, are all the electives automatically on Teachables? Yes, they're all there. If you want to get access to the artificial intelligence elective, my MBA program, go to the very last lecture and you'll see it there. Okay. Chef wrote, do you offer a real MBA beside what's on Udemy? If you want to check out my courses, you can always go to my website, harounmba.com. I have a couple of MBAs. They're not accredited. I don't believe in accreditation. I think the education is elitist. But if you go to my website, you can read here more details on the MBA program. You can start silver today. It's $499, 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. And if you don't get a 10x return in the first 30 days, I want you to get your money back. I also offer what's called the Gold and Platinum MBA on an annual basis, and I'll launch the next one next year. But if you sign up for the Silver, you're automatically allowed to get to the front of the line to join Gold or Platinum with a discount as well. And if you have questions about the MBA, go to harounmba.com. Just scroll down to FAQs here. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Nintendo wrote, Chris, I would like to know if I complete a course on your website, do I get a certificate? Yes. Yeah, for all my courses you do. If you can't find the certificate, you can always email support@harounventures.com. But once you complete an entire course, it should automatically be sent to you. Thank you. Okay, next up, Aman wrote, can you elaborate more on informal meetings? Yeah, absolutely. So what I recommend doing is have an up-to-date LinkedIn profile, which I teach in my courses, my MBA program. And then once your LinkedIn profile is up-to-date and perfected, then what I want you to do is I want you to do an advanced search in LinkedIn for people that have something in common with you. Maybe they went to the same high school, undergrad, maybe they're a member of the same organizations, religious organizations, charities, etc. And then you reach out to them and you send an email. Don't ever send an email because nobody opens emails anymore. Send an email because everybody in this call, you've all looked at every single email you've received, right? So in the email, you write hi for the subject line. They're going to open it anyway. And then the contents of the email, you mention two things you have in common, and that's it. So for example, John, hope all is well. I'm also from Mississauga, and I went to the Toronto French School, and I live here in the Bay Area. Please let me know if you have time for a coffee or a Zoom meeting. Thanks a lot, your future boss. So thanks a lot, Chris. Sorry, that was awful humor. But you want to find a couple things you have in common with them. And just do an advanced search on companies you want to work at. Set up a ton of informational meetings. And then during the informational meeting, you bond for the first 10 minutes. And then they're very politely going to ask you, and they won't say it like this, but they'll ask, why are we meeting? And that's when you say you're interested in switching careers or working at the company they work at. And by the end of the meeting, you have to ask them, please, if they know of any openings. And if they don't know of any openings, then you can ask them, well, do you know anybody else that also went to our school that might be hiring within your company or in other companies? Rinse, lather, repeat, do that 100 times. And I promise you, there's a very good chance you'll get that coveted job. But you got to follow through. And networking is a lot like dating. You know, you don't get married after one date. And also you for me at least, and I shouldn't be giving dating advice, but I had to ask out 8 million people on a date before one finally said yes. But you only have to be right in business one time. Yeah. Okay. All right. Looks like everything is settled. My box is over there. This light went out. Didn't start a fire, so we're okay. Give me 1 second, guys. What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you something here. I'm going to make sure that I'm not overexposed. And what I'm about to show you, you can all do with your camera. Or what you can do is you can buy an external adapter to check on this. So the way you know if you're under or overexposed is you hold this up to your face, a piece of white paper or a white card, whatever. And you make sure, you see this Ghostbuster thing here? You make sure that it's just under or close to 80. Okay, so I'm slightly underexposed on this side because the light went out, but exposure is good in the middle and that side. Okay, we're good to go. All right, that was a teachable moment. Okay. Great. All right. Next up, Phil wrote, "Good morning, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Great to see you always. Thank you." All right. All right. Next up, Niraj wrote, "I'm loving the entrepreneurship courses under the $99 per month subscription program on my website. Thank you." As a 10th grader, wow. As a 10th grader, wondering what courses under the subscription program you think would be the most useful for me. Yeah. I would probably go to, I have a 7.5-hour course called an entire MBA in one course. I would take that, and whatever aspect of business you're most passionate about based on what you watch, those are the follow-up courses to take. And I feel like my job is I'm a waiter. And when you go to a restaurant, you look at the whole menu, you only order one or two things. So what I want you to do is focus on the one thing in the course, entire MBA in one course, that you're passionate about, and then take other courses of mine based on that. And you don't have to pay more money for that because you're already on my subscription program, and thank you. Okay, next up, Nintendo wrote, referring to my question about educating kids on finance, how do you think we/the education system should go about doing so for younger people? I know you have a course on managing your finances. Yeah. I would just talk about it a lot at the dinner table with your kids. And I would explain to them how, if they did not spend $300, for example, to buy Beats by Dre, if all they did was they put that in the stock market, then in 30 years or so, they'd have $30,000. And I can run through the math if you want me to. Or you can tell them, instead of spending $10 a month on virtual gems in Fortnite, whatever, if you save that $10 per month, you'd have thousands and thousands of dollars by the time you're 30 or 40 years old. So I would teach them the time value of money concept. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Melanie. Hey, Melanie, how are you? Good to see you. Melanie goes by How To Vince. Melanie wrote, "Hey, Chris, what are your thoughts on all currency being digital?" It sort of is right now. I mean, if you think about it, like, I don't really carry cash. I use credit cards for everything. But if the question is your thoughts on cryptocurrencies taking all share away from paper currencies or fiat currencies, I would say that wouldn't happen, because a country's, the most important driver of economic growth and the most important military weapon, so to speak, for countries is their ability to print currency, meaning sell bonds and change interest rates. And if any country felt threatened by cryptocurrencies taking share from their own paper-based or fiat currencies, they would make cryptocurrencies illegal. Now, the more left-wing leaning a country is, meaning communist, socialist, etc., the more likely they are to make cryptocurrencies illegal. And most communist countries and extreme left-wing countries have already made cryptos illegal. The more right-wing oriented countries, where they believe in a free market, have not made cryptos illegal. But if, and you mark my words, if the US government felt threatened by people wanting to own only Bitcoin and not US dollars, that would be a national security issue. And they would make cryptocurrencies illegal. I don't think we're going to get to that point. Yeah. All right. Bakari, how are you, man? Great to see you. Bakari is one of my MBA students, platinum MBA student. He lives in France right now. He's 6'11", and he used to play basketball in the NCAA. And yeah, great to see you, man. I hope you're doing well as well. And how are you doing on SimCity Build It? I'm on level 51 now. Yeah. Everybody has to play that app. It's an amazing game. Okay. And that's how I learned about business too, was playing SimCity back in the 80s on my Mac when it was black and white. And my son, Andrew, the reason that he went to Berkeley to study engineering was because we were on vacation and I was showing him SimCity and he loved it. He's like, "Dad, I want to build." So everybody should have their kids try out SimCity. Yeah. And I'm a man child. I still play. Okay. All right, next up, Manas wrote, "Have you heard about Pax Gold? It's backed by Gold Standard, and also it's one of a kind. It's a good strategy to back crypto with gold or any commodity in the long run." Yeah, I've not heard of that, but I do think gold is a great long-term investment. Do your research first, everybody. My biggest long position was ticker GLD back in 2008. And when times are tough, gold usually goes up. And given all this chatter globally that some countries don't want to use the US dollar anymore in the long run, what else do you buy? Well, if you're the Chinese government and you don't want to buy as much US treasuries, meaning invest in US dollars, you're probably going to buy more gold. And that's why gold, I think, is a great long-term investment. And I think it should be in everybody's portfolio after you do the work. Okay. And Pranav wrote, nice to meet you again. Great to see you. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Warren wrote, hey, Chris, new listener. Thank you for joining. I hope you join us again. You wrote, have you ever heard of evergreen direct investing? And if you have, what are your thoughts on it? I have not. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Abhishek wrote, hi, Chris. Hey, my question is it a good idea to own farmland for the worst case scenario? And then you wrote, I got the idea after watching a collapse documentary. Yeah. I own a lot of farmland. I think it's a great long-term investment. I think that cities are in secular decline. If the internet was invented first, would we still all spend 2 hours a day commuting to and from work to go into these office buildings, destroy the environment, destroy our personal life, destroy our health? No. So I think farmland is a great investment. I own a lot of farmland in Texas. Now, when I bought the farmland in Texas, I gave up the mineral rights. So if oil is discovered on the land I own, I don't get it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Bakari wrote, hi, Chris. I love the graduation event video. Thank you. And I wish you could have joined us as well. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person one day as well, buddy. And then you wrote, I'm trying to watch every other day to boost myself. Thank you, Chris. You're most welcome, and thank you. Okay. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, a week from now, BRICS, meaning Brazil, Russia, India, China, and the S, I guess, means South Africa. A week from now, BRICS will launch a gold currency backed by genuine raw gold. And it's quite a big step. Even when the Chinese economy is falling and the dollar is weak, it's time for a change. Yeah, I do think gold is a great long-term investment. But again, I still believe that the United States dollar is going to be the reserve currency or the lowest risk currency for the foreseeable future. Yes, it is losing share, which is one of the reasons I own gold. Yeah. And again, currency investing, it's all relative, right? So, the last company to go bankrupt, so to speak, on this planet would be the U.S. government. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Pride. Pride, it's been a while, eh? Pride wrote, hi, Chris, long time. Hope you're well, and Mrs. Haroun. Chris, thank you. What are the advantages of a wage system that pays fortnightly over once at the end of the month? Yeah. I don't know why it's every 2 weeks instead of every month. I just don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. But I'd rather get paid more often so I can invest that money. Yeah. Because of the time value of money. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Abdulaziz wrote, good day, Chris. I hope you're doing well. Likewise. Any idea what is a social enterprise is about? Is it a mix of business and philanthropy? Thanks, my dear. Yeah. I'm not sure. I know that there's a big concept of ESG in investing, meaning environmental and social governance, to the extent that a lot of people only invest in companies that do good things for the world. So for me, for example, and we all have our own biases, I won't invest in tobacco companies or alcohol companies. I also will never invest in any company that makes marijuana. And I think, this is just me, but I think marijuana should be legal just for medicinal purposes. No filter here. Okay. Next up, Alejandro wrote, Chris, Warren Buffett bet $814 million on 3 home builders, D.R. Horton, Lennar, and NVR. Lennar, ticker LEN. That was one of my biggest shorts back in 2008. Yeah. I'd have to do more research on why. Yeah. But he's the sage of Omaha. He's smarter than me. And he taught one of my classes in business school. He was also an alumni of Columbia University. He did his master's there years ago. He came in one day to guest lecture, and he was there with his wife. God bless her, she passed away. And his wife was teasing him because on their honeymoon, he brought one book, which was The Intelligent Investor, which is kind of like the best book to read if you want to learn about value investing. It is kind of boring, though, to be intellectually honest. Now, when he taught that class back in December of 1999, one of my classmates at Columbia was pitching a tech stock to him. And my buddy, he pitched it for about 30 seconds. And then Warren Buffett very nicely, very gently said, son, I'm going to stop you right there because I don't know where this technology company's products are going to be 18 months from now. So I won't invest in anything I don't understand. And he was brilliant because a couple months later in March of 2000, the market peaked. Yeah, very, very long-term investor. Yeah. The longer the view, the wiser the intention. Yeah. And my favorite Warren Buffett quote is when he said that the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Isn't that amazing? People freak out when stocks are going down. But if I gave you any other product, like if I told you that, PlayStation 5 was $399, you can now get it for $49, of course you'd buy it. Yeah, you always want to be a contrarian. And really unemotional people are the best investors as well, and the best business people, because they're contrarians. In fact, Elon Musk backed up the truck and bought a lot of Tesla shares in early 2020 when, the pandemic hit the markets really hard. And then he sold those shares in late 2021, 6 weeks before the market peaked in, I think it was January of 2022. So you got to be unemotional. And what you can also do, and I teach about this in my complete artificial intelligence course, is you can run a regression analysis in Excel to look to see how stock prices have performed historically when insiders buy or sell. And years ago, when I used to work in the hedge fund industry, I used to meet with Bobby Kotick, who is the CEO, founder of Activision. And whenever he said that he sold shares in size, and this is always publicly disclosed, but whenever he sold shares in size, I would go short Activision and vice versa as well. And this is an area of finance called behavioral finance, which was pioneered by a great mutual fund here in San Mateo called Fuller and Taylor. Yeah, and I think Dick Fuller got a Nobel Prize in finance a couple of years ago. But you can always backtest this stuff by running a regression analysis, which is taught in section 6 of my complete artificial intelligence course. Okay. All right. Next up, Pride wrote, anyone on the edge of signing up, don't hesitate, highly recommended. Thank you. And then he wrote, can't wait for my gold class graduation. Chris, thank you so much. I'm yet to do exercises to get the 50% mark. I will fix that. Thank you. And God bless you. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person as well. And the next gold and platinum MBA will launch next year. It's an annual thing. Anybody can start silver today. And get front of the line access to when we start the next gold or platinum program next year. And you only have to get over 50% on half of the quizzes. So the way it works in the MBA program is there's 100 quizzes and there's 100 classes. And the quizzes take you no time because you learn during class. There's no other homework. And the quizzes take you no time. And in order to pass, all you got to do is get over 50% on half of the quizzes. And I set it up that way because it's not fair for me to make you all learn stuff you don't want to learn about. If you're not interested in finance, I don't want you to take those quizzes. If you're interested in entrepreneurship only, just take the entrepreneurship stuff, etc. Okay. All right, give me 1 second here. Okay, hey Frenchie, how are you? Frenchie is one of my MBA students. Great, and Frenchie, thank you so much for coming onto Zoom on Saturday at 12 p.m. To talk to everybody in the audience at the event and for sharing your goals. God bless you. You warm my heart. So Frenchie wrote, good morning, Sensei Chichi. That's my nickname growing up, Chichi, because I couldn't say Chris. Hope you're doing well. What is your view on DeFi or decentralized finance? Yeah. So when people talk about that, they're usually referring to blockchain. So blockchain, if you think about it, Bitcoin's blockchain is a digital ledger. But if you take it a step further, you have digital everything. And that's basically what Ethereum is. It's decentralized, not just for finance, but for anything. And so what you want to do is you always want to invest in companies that own the road, meaning they own the platform. And I love Ethereum. I've been there investing in it for years. I'll never sell it. But with Ethereum, it's decentralized to the extent that it's not just a digital ledger. It's also a place where cryptocurrencies go public, meaning they go ICO, initial coin offerings. It's also where NFTs are bought and sold as well. Yeah. Nobody said NFT in ages, eh? Okay. Kind of like the metaverse. Nobody talks about that anymore. Metaverse is MEH, metaverse. It's all about AI. Okay. Thank you, Nintendo. I love all your questions. Next up, Chef Hack wrote, on the San Fransisco subject, I'm in the food business startup. The executive chairman pulled out of the partnership because he says it's a dead city. So I missed out on a $6 million deal. Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough. A lot of restaurant startups have pulled out of the city. In fact, on Market Street, the Westfield Shopping Center, where Nordstrom was, and tons of other amazing stores, shut down recently as well. Yeah, it's really sad what's happening. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Pride wrote, everybody, that's a Maxime restaurant menu. Yeah. It's where our teacher took his lovely wife, Christine, for a date. I forgot which one, first date or the proposal date. No, I proposed to my wife in Paris at Maxine's. Actually, it was right by the Eiffel Tower. We had dinner first at Maxine's. I was nervous, man. Yeah. She said yes. Okay. And then Alejandro wrote, thank you for everything. Have a blessed day. God bless you. I'm looking forward to your daughter's internship as well. Yeah. Okay. Beyond Formidable wrote, thank you, bro. You're most welcome. Okay. Next up, RVM wrote, thanks for making your options course. It was so simple to understand. My pleasure. Thank you. Yeah. That was the hardest course I've ever taught. I think it was close to 30 hours. And after making that, I thought, hey, man, I got to push the goalpost and start teaching programming courses. Yeah. Many more coming. Okay. Melanie wrote, I do want to say Chris has the best courses. Thank you so much for that. And then you wrote, SimCity, that is funny. I just downloaded. Everybody's got to do it. Come on, everybody download SimCity Build It. Okay, on your Android device or iPhone. It's an incredible, get your kids to play too. It's a great way to learn about business. Yeah. I'm addicted to it. I love it. Okay. All right. Chibike wrote, sorry, $5. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Sorry. Devesh wrote, please suggest some books on analysis of financial statements for investing. The only one I recommend reading is called Financial Shenanigans, which was written by Howard Shillett, and I used to be his client. He created CIFRA, which is a forensic accounting sell-side firm. So when I worked in the hedge fund industry, he helped me with a lot of shorts. Again, it's called Financial Shenanigans by Howard Shillett. Yeah. Okay, Dimitri wrote, hi, Chris. Hey, I'm enjoying your crypto course on Udemy so far. Thank you. You wrote, odd question, but are you planning to make an Apple Numbers LibreOffice compatible version of the documents? I don't like Microsoft apps on the Mac. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Excel. And the Excel templates in a lot of my courses, including the complete Microsoft Excel course. The Excel document works on Mac and on Windows. The only thing you can't do on a Mac is ActiveX controls, but you can do VBA, meaning Visual Basic for Applications. Now, what you can do and what I do in order to test the Mac version of Excel is I have Windows running on my Mac, and I use Parallels. And there's a lot of companies that make software that will allow you to run a virtual machine or virtual instance of Windows on a Mac. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Patrick Bennett. Hey, Patrick, how are you? Patrick wrote, I'm planning on getting your MBA program on your website. Thank you. I appreciate it. specifically the $99 subscription. Does your MBA program cover everything? I looked it up and it had most or all of what universities cover. Yeah, I think it covers all and much more. But let me know. You ask me any questions about what is covered and I'll let you know. Or what you can do is just go to harounmba.com and then navigate and just look through the curriculum. Yeah. Okay. Okay, next up, Bakari wrote, thank you, Chris, for asking. I'm doing great. And I'm almost at level 32 on SimCity Build It. Excellent. Thank you. Nicely done. You wrote, what is the best way to become an expert in blockchain? Yeah. So I offer a lot of courses on how to invest. But if you want to become very technical and understand blockchain, then what you can do is just go to Udemy's website and do a search on Kirill. He's a really smart guy, nice guy. He's based in Australia. He teaches a course on how to make a blockchain. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, RVM wrote, hi, Chris, what are your thoughts on Palantir? Yeah. So full disclosure, I was a venture capital investor, along with Peter Thiel in Palantir before it went public. I sold my shares before the IPO. So let me talk about Palantir. So Palantir is an artificial intelligence-based company. There's pros and cons to it, and I'll talk about both. In the Obama administration, the only reason they found Osama bin Laden was because they used Palantir software. And Palantir software will find patterns in data so that you can decide what an outcome might be. And governments use it for national security reasons and also to track human trafficking, etc. Also, big banks are customers to look for vulnerabilities in their IT infrastructure. So they've got two products. One is called Gotham and the other one is called Metropolis. I don't know where they got those from. But the negative thing about Palantir, just to be intellectually honest, is that its margins aren't as high as traditional software companies because you need to have a lot of employees that will feed data into the machine, so to speak. Yeah. I'm not a shareholder anymore. Okay, next up, Frenchie wrote, also, in regards to crypto mining, I heard Peter Thiel, speaking of Peter Thiel, invested heavily into wind power and some are using flaring natural gas. What are your thoughts? Yeah, my only exposure to wind power is I met with the CFO of Vestas years ago. I don't know that much about that sector. Yeah, but I'm surprised. I thought Peter Thiel was not focused as much on clean tech investments. Now, Peter Thiel runs a great venture capital firm called Founders Fund, and I think you probably go to foundersfund.com to look at his portfolio. And Peter Thiel was the co-founder, along with Max Levchin, of PayPal. And he's a brilliant investor. He's amazing. He's also the first investor in Facebook. He put $500,000 in, made billions from that. Yeah. But back in 2008, every venture capital firm got burned because of clean tech. And since then, not many VC firms have invested in clean tech because the margins are quite thin. And people that invested in solar companies got burned as well back in 2008 because the solar industry was propped up by government subsidies globally. And so when Spain had a lot of problems post 2008, when youth unemployment was 40%, it was awful. Spain pulled most of the subsidies, right? And so I'm surprised to hear that he's actually investing in that market. It's probably a small part of his portfolio. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Sarthik wrote, I'm studying in university in India. I want to get an internship at a blockchain company. I know just basic stuff, but I want to learn whatever is necessary to land a job at those companies. And you want to be a blockchain developer or a Web3 developer. Yeah. So what I would recommend is two things. Number one, you can go to udemy.com and do a search for blockchain and take Kirill's course on how to create a blockchain. Number two, you have to network like crazy. You can go to my website, harounmba.com, download this networking book. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Ted wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Likewise, good to see you. You wrote, speaking of being a contrarian, when would you ever consider buying property in or around San Francisco? Yeah. I mean, I'm always looking. I'm always looking. I would not buy in the city at prices right now. Prices are not really going down much in the city. It's still crazy. But I definitely look to see where the BART or Caltrain, or which is our local transportation, where the next stop is going to be added, right? And so in any city, actually, if you analyze the subway or the train patterns, if there's talk about a new stop being added, you might want to invest in residential real estate in that area. And hold on a second. Wayne Gretzky, I just redid my office. I got to find all my props here. Wayne Gretzky was very successful, not because he skates where the puck is, but because he skates where the puck is going to be. And so that's what we have to do when it comes to investing. We need to buy property or buy stocks that people are going to like. Okay. All right. And then Manas wrote, real estate is a big bubble in the United States. Will it break or keep going higher owing to more rates hikes? Moody's threatened to downgrade JP Morgan and other banks this week. What about the rest of the year? Yeah, I can't call any market for the rest of the year. But my grandfather, and I miss him, God bless you, he used to always say, Chrissy, buy land. They're not making it anymore. So I'm bullish on real estate in the long run, not city-based real estate. I like farmland, as I mentioned earlier, as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, Peter, how are you? All right. And last question I see here is from Sarthik, who wrote, I really don't know where those companies post about internships and how to contact them from India. Just set up just a ton of networking meetings at any company you want to work at. I promise you it's the best way to get a job, because you can't just send in your resume, because as I mentioned before, you have a 1 out of 250 chance of getting that job. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for your time. For those of you in my Silver MBA program, today at 10 a.m. Pacific time, I'm doing a 1-hour Zoom. I do it every single week for my Silver students. In order to find out, if you have more questions, just type them now. Oh, I see a bunch came through. Okay. If you're in my Silver MBA program, just go to the very first lecture to get that link for the 1-hour Zoom meeting. Okay, Sarthik wrote, God bless you. Thank you so much. Excellent. All right, guys. And if you have more questions and you haven't typed them yet, you can always ask me next week. Or if you're in the Silver MBA, I'll see you later today at 10 a.m. Thank you. And God bless you all as well. I'll see you. And now I'm going to fix my studio and this light as well. Thank you. Oh, I'm going to end this weekly webcast with a video. It's a 1-minute video I play every week that will change your life. And I license it from the Silicon Valley Historical Association. It's a very short interview with Steve Jobs. God bless you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.